It's Tuesday, March 21st, 2021. Well, we saw a multitude of miracles take place yet again today. Stock market rally, regional bank stocks rally, home purchases rally. It seems like everything is just wonderful. Isn't it amazing? A week ago, everything was collapsing, and now today, with the billions, the $300 billion that the government had to pump into these banks and back into this economy, it's amazing how fast they can turn it around. But the question is, how long will it last? And what are the implications from these hundreds of billions of dollars that have been pumped into the banks? What are the real implications here? It's going to be more inflation, and you're going to pay for this, ladies and gentlemen. Article today on CNBC: home sales spike 14.5% in February as the median price drops for the first time in over a decade. They make this sound like great news. What we need to remember is that home sales are down 22.6% compared to a year ago. And the real shortage of inventory isn't homes. The real shortage of inventory is qualified buyers with jobs. That's the real shortage. And we're going to continue to watch more layoffs. We just saw Amazon laying off, what was it, another 9,000. Disney, I think, is now up to 7,000. More and more layoffs coming. And we're going to watch this economy collapse even further. But I like how they try to make it sound like great news that home sales spike. Home sales spike, even though they're down over 22% from a year ago. Here's another one from CNBC. First Republic jumps 30%, leads comeback rally in regional banks Tuesday. This sounds like incredible news, but how did we get this? Well, we got it because they had to pump hundreds of billions of dollars into these banks to save them, while we were just being told weeks ago that the banks were fine, they're safe, everything's wonderful, but we had to pump $300 billion into the banking system before it collapsed. And now these regional bank stocks are rallying. Everything is wonderful. If you believe this, you will get what you deserve. This after Janet Yellen, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen came out and told us that the government could backstop deposits at even more banks. So of course you're going to see a rally in these bank stocks. Of course we'll see a rally in the stock market, but it's all artificial. It's not because the economy is booming. It's not because the banks are actually really safe and sound. It's because they are literally injecting hundreds of billions of dollars into these financial institutions to cool down the fear. But is it really going to fix the problem? Absolutely not. Treasury Secretary Yellen says the government could backstop more deposits if necessary to stop the contagion. So they're now saying that they're going to basically insure $20 trillion of deposit money, just pump a few hundred more billion dollars into this. Last week, we were told there was no problems, that the banks are going to be fine, and then we saw more contagion. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing this Fed balance sheet expanding another $300 billion. So we had QT, and now we're back to QE. Quantitative tightening, back to quantitative easing. And this means more inflation. And this should tell every one of you that they have not been upfront with us, that they've been lying to us, because if the banks were so safe, if the banks were so sound, how come they had to pump $300 billion into these banks? And we're going to see if it works. But we know that we're going to see more inflation because of this. And I have a feeling we're going to see more problems with more banks. So tomorrow, we have the Fed coming out. I believe it's going to be 25 basis points. Let me know what you think. Will it be 0? Will it be 25? Will it be 50? I think it will be 25. But whatever the case may be, with Janet Yellen coming out and saying that they're going to backstop more banks, this just gives the banks the green light to be more reckless, take more risk, and they know that there's no consequences. In fact, they'll be rewarded. I mean, this is like literally giving a person with a gambling addiction free money to go to Las Vegas, lose as much as you want, and we're going to just pay you back. So I think this is extremely dangerous. And look, if a bank made bad loans, I think that you have to insure the depositors, but do you insure the investors of these banks? That's the problem. Do these banks, are they allowed to just continue to be reckless and irresponsible? I think this is awful. I think that this, again, gives the green light to a lot of recklessness, and the banks are going to continue to do what they do, gamble. And when they get burned, it's going to be up to you and I to bail them out. I mean, it's unbelievable. Let's talk about the economy here. This is coming from Fox Business. Foot Locker closing 400 shopping mall locations by 2026. So they have 1,300 Foot Lockers in malls right now. A little bit over 400 will close. So think about that. That is 30%, or over 30% of their stores by 2026 are going to close. Here's one from The Hedge today, also a reflection of what's happening in the economy and what's happening to the middle class, what's happening to the average person. Auto loan denials hit 6-year high as distress cycle shifts into gear. A New York Federal Reserve Bank of New York survey shows the auto loan denial rate rose to 9.1% in February. And this, in my opinion, will continue to climb, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be... We're getting another rate hike tomorrow. It is going to cost more money to borrow money. It's going to cost more money to service debt. And we're looking at a denial rate of 9.1% right now. This, I can't even remember ever hearing a number that high, but it's going to get much more difficult to borrow money. If you're buying a car, you're buying a house, if you're financing something, and you look at credit card rates around 20% plus right now, interest on a credit card. I don't know how people are doing it. If you do, please comment down below. How are people doing it right now? Here's another one today from RT. I thought this was very interesting. Top Asian economy urges citizens to abandon Western payment systems. The leader of Indonesia, I'll probably pronounce this wrong, Joko Widodo, argued at a business forum last week that Indonesia must shield itself from geopolitical disruption, citing the sanctions attack on Russia's financial sector by the US, EU, and their allies. He said, be very careful. Remember the sanctions imposed on Russia. Visa and MasterCard could be a problem, he said. Last year, Indonesia rolled out a domestic government credit card called KKP to facilitate transactions between the central and regional governments. The president urged the public sector to adopt the domestic system so we can be independent. I think we're going to see a lot more of this, and we're beginning to see a lot more of this across the globe right now. And it's in the beginning stages. This is probably going to take years to evolve, but it's going to happen. And the thing is, right now, we have to remember, it's happening. This is the important thing. It's beginning to happen right now. And you need to be prepared for this, because your standard of living in America, your purchasing power is going to change abruptly in the next 5 years. This is the 7th biggest economy in the world. GDP, $4.37 trillion, or purchasing power parity, it says. That's big. That's very, very big. But the wheels are in motion right now. The dollar is going to have competition. The standard of living in America is going to continue to erode. And if you're not protecting your wealth, if you're not waking up, if you're not paying attention to what's going on, you're going to lose here. The Hedge, Peter Schiff, Americans will pay for those bank bailouts. There's no doubt about it. He responds to what Yellen said the other day when she was testifying at the Hill, saying that the banking system is sound. Peter Schiff says this, not at all. It is not sound. She said inflation was transitory. She told us that back in 2008 that we shouldn't worry about these subprime loans. She said that everything was going to be okay. In fact, I remember years ago when she said we would never ever see an economic downturn in America in our lifetime. And here we are. The banking system, he says, is a house of cards. Economy is a house of cards. So Peter says that the banking system is a house of cards, the economy is a house of cards, and inflation will get worse. How can it not when you have the Fed right now returning to QE 100%? People are going to continue to go to the store. They're going to continue to buy stuff. They're going to continue to pay for services, and they're going to continue to question why prices are not going down, why inflation is sticking around. Why is it the Fed continues to raise rates and we still have inflation? Well, because they're expanding the balance sheet. The government can't stop spending. We're bailing out banks, yet we're raising interest rates. So it's completely counterproductive. And so we're going to have higher rates, which is going to cost the middle class and the poor even more, while we are printing and borrowing billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. This is it. Egan von Grier's warns the financial system is terminally broken. This also on the hedge. Anyone, he says, who doesn't see what is happening will soon lose a major part of their assets, either through bank failure, currency debasement, or the collapse of all bubble assets like stocks, property, and bonds by 75 to 100%. Many bonds will become worth zero. Worthless. No matter what they tell you, the banking system is unsound, ladies and gentlemen. And if it wasn't, why would they have had to pump $300 billion into it last week? And it's not over. It's not over. This is a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound, and you need to realize that. There are people out here much smarter than me in the comments watching these videos. There's people like Egan von Grier's, Peter Schiff, the Rob Kiyosaki's, and many, many more that are much, much more intelligent than me. I'm just standing by watching this daily. I'm paying attention. And I think that every one of you better be paying attention to this. And, you know, some people will say, oh, this is so negative and I just can't deal with it. And I just can't think about it. You better. Because like Egan von Grier says here, you are going to lose. You will be wiped out. Your assets, you're going to take a big hit here. You need to be awake. You need to be in this game. You need to be participating, and you need to be very defensive right now. You need to be very concerned about who's managing your money, where your money is, what your money's doing, how safe it is, how quickly can you access it, what's it in. You know, if you're just digits on a computer screen, you're vulnerable. There's huge counterparty risk. If your money is sitting outside of your control, your money is in jeopardy. There is serious counterparty risk right now. These banks are going to continue to look out for themselves. And I really believe that we are not far off from some really, really big events taking place. Anybody that thinks that this is going to fix the banking system, no, this just exposed to all of us, you and I, how weak the banks are, how we've been lied to over the years when they kept telling us that everything was okay, kept telling us that inflation was transitory, kept telling us that there'd never be an economic downturn, kept telling us that the Fed would come to the rescue and save everybody. This is not true. As far as I'm concerned, all this is going to be purposely done, that this is a controlled demolition of the economy and of the banking system. And so you can't rule that out right now. There's no way that this is all being done accidentally. So don't depend on somebody coming to your rescue. Don't depend on the Fed coming and rescuing the markets. This all could be intentional. This all could be done purposely. But right now, what we do know is they're buying some time with these banks by putting a big Band-Aid on a very, very big gunshot wound here. And it's not going to stop the bleeding, ladies and gentlemen. So enjoy the rallies. This is, to me, is just another sucker's rally, because they have now exposed to you and I just how weak the financial sector is and how vulnerable millions of people are right now. And it's only a matter of time before this house of cards built on quicksand comes tumbling down. Ask yourself, if it all crashed tonight, would you be safe? Would you be okay? Do you have money? Do you have food? Do you have water? Do you have security? Do you have the training? Do you have the mindset? Do you have a plan? If you don't, you better wake up immediately, because we're getting very, very close to something happening. And last week was just a warning of how fast things can happen and what's to come. It's going to get much worse. prepared, ladies and gentlemen. God bless all of you. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it, and make sure you subscribe. Talk to all of you very, very soon.